I'm here with Dennis Easter. He's pastor of Portland FourSquare Church. Tell us a little bit about the church, Dennis.
The campus where we're at is, as we all know, it's not the church, but we were actually part of a historical church that had been in the city for almost 100 years and had a rather significant voice over the past decades. But like a lot of historical churches in the inner city, it lost its sense of vision, direction, context, and the church basically whittled down to very few. And it was during that time that we decided that we were going to either have to stay with all of our efforts to maintain our history, or that we were going to relocate and embrace a new future. The future for us was discerned by saying, Portland is a collection of Mayberries. It's neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood. I think somebody said, we don't want to be the best church in the neighborhood. And then somebody else said, we want to be the best church for the neighborhood. We've actually taken a little bit different slant. We want to be the best church with the neighborhood. So how do we do life with our neighbors? So we're doing that by sharing, of course, Christ as the central answer to all of our human experience. But we're finding unique partnerships with the community in things that have to do with compassion and justice, issues like that, that in that mutual sharing of a commitment to our humanity, we're finding that they are opening themselves up to the gospel in ways that's fresh in their lives. We found our way into the neighborhood, and it's pretty cool. We found in our neighborhood and areas that there are some needs that are from dislocated families, the economical downturn, and particularly happening in Portland. And so we set about doing a partnership with a major ministry in the city. Instead of starting something new, we set up in our new facility a new food pantry, and it actually is more than just take it off the shelf. It actually looks like a mini grocery store. You know, the unique partnership is it's not just a faith-based thing we're doing. We asked their permission to do it before we did it. We wanted to say this is something we want to do with you, not just for you. And so now we'll have people in the community who aren't a part of our church and haven't even yet made commitment to faith, partnering with us to care for other people. They're watching the gospel in action, and it opens their heart to say, hey, this is for real. How can we be a part of this in a much deeper way? The neighborhood associations here are really big. They're very engaged with each other. So during the summer they do what is called movie nights in the park, where they have giant blow-up screens, and hundreds, if not thousands of people show up in some of the local parks. We decided, instead of running our counter-cultural events where we would hold up here in our facility, we decided to cancel out what we do in the summer and say we're going to do life with our community. We help sponsor that, so we underwrite the expense of that. We show up to help serve it. We make sure that we're the group that volunteers to clean up the park after they're all done. So we do that kind of action. In fact, the fun thing is right down the street where we're at, there's a whole series of businesses, and everything from pubs to stores and etc., spas. And when we first moved in here, what we did is we went down and interviewed every one of the managers and videotaped them and showed every Sunday, when we first moved in, every Sunday we introduced them to a new store and told them, here's our neighbors, let's pray for that business to prosper. Just like you pray for the city to prosper, and then you'll prosper. And then the good thing is that then after the services, our people would go down and saturate restaurants. And so we became intertwined immediately with our neighborhood, respecting who was already here and how we could be a part of the story that's unfolding.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Hey, so what counsel would you give to a church that's historically tried to do the attractional thing, but's trying to move now to add in a more missional component into the fabric of what they do?
We came up with a discernment process that we thought was pretty simple. God is already at work in this place before we arrive, so we don't have to invent that. And we felt like not only was God at work, but his work could be discerned. And that what was discerned then should shape what you do and how you go about it. And then finally, you should expect the same outcomes that would be consistent with what God's up to in your life or in a community. So we called it listening to the city. We became a part of the story that God was writing here in the human hearts that was apart from the church, but we get to be a part of what his story is and bring maybe even greater clarity to that. So for us, it was a real discernment process to hear what God is saying. So my recommendation is, don't jump on, hey, let's get rid of the property and let's just move into a neighborhood. You really have to discern. For us, moving into the neighborhood was because that's how Portland is. It's a collection of neighborhoods, and that relational currency here is everything. So to be a part of the story that God was writing, we needed to move into the neighborhoods with the Lord and become a part of what he was doing. What is God's idea? What's he doing? What is he up to? You can discern that. Then you can align your efforts to it, and you can become a part of that. But here's the big deal. If you believe God's called you to come and change a historic church in a setting to something new, then be ready for the journey of your life, because the first change that's going to happen is you. And if you don't go through that deep change personally, you'll never lead your church into that deep change. The most profound transformation that must take place for your church to move from attractional to missional is you have to embody that culture yourself. You have to become that change. And if that doesn't happen, then it's just another thing you're doing to try to win the day. And we're trying to win eternity.